The moonlight barely illuminated the stone streets of the abandoned village. The night was silent, a deadly silence. Even the sound of his own footsteps echoing with each step made Serkan's heart race. The whispers he'd heard for so long, the ominous figures lurking in the shadows, and every step he took into the unknown had brought him to this point. Serkan looked up at the sky and took a deep breath. "Am I really going to do this?" he muttered to himself. But there was no turning back now. He had no choice but to move forward. Serkan approached the old village house in the middle of the square, which had been left in ruins. The door, gnawed by the ruthless teeth of time, hung slightly open. A cold breeze blew from inside, hitting his face as if to warn an unwelcome guest. "I'm here," he whispered to himself, trying to measure his own strength and courage, but even his words came out weak. He glanced down at the old dusty parchment in his hand. The faded text on it was filled with symbols representing a pact, symbols that were unreadable yet evoked a sense of dark power. The moment he stepped inside, everything changed. The air grew heavy, his breath became tight, and the dim light inside began to sting his eyes. In the corner, there was a table lit by a flickering candle. On the table lay an old rusty pen beside a bottle of ink. Serkan's heart pounded as if it would burst out of his chest. "I'm so close," he thought. "So close, and everything will change." This pact was a ray of hope to fill the emptiness within him, to heal the pain of all he had lost. He would get the money, the power, everything he wanted. But there was a price. Serkan knelt before the table and picked up the pen. The flickering candlelight cast his shadow on the wall, making it appear like a giant figure. Then he heard it, a whisper, deep and demonic. "Are you ready?" The voice echoed from every corner of the room, emerging from the void, from the darkness. Serkan tried to resist the chilling voice, but his hands were trembling. "Yes," he finally managed to say, his voice barely more than a whisper. He dipped the pen into the ink and was about to sign his name at the bottom of the pact when a sudden chill enveloped his entire body. It was as if time had stopped. In that instant, a figure emerged from the shadows. Serkan's eyes widened, his heart pounding even faster. He couldn't tell if the figure was human or something else entirely. Its face was covered, only its eyes were visible, empty, soulless, and cold as death. "I want your soul," the figure whispered. Serkan's hand felt frozen. He dropped the pen. "That's the deal," the figure said, its voice now deeper and more powerful. "Give me your soul, and you will receive everything in return." For a moment, Serkan hesitated, but then he thought of all the losses and pain in his life. "I accept," he shouted. "I accept." Instantly, the figure let out a laugh, a dark, haunting laugh that seemed to shake the very walls of the room. At that moment, the candle went out, plunging the room into darkness. For a moment, Serkan felt like he couldn't breathe, and then a deep pain spread across his chest. Everything became blurry, his vision darkened, as if a cold hand was pressing against his chest. It felt as if time had stopped, but suddenly, a horrific scream echoed. Serkan woke up gasping for air, his eyes struggling to adjust to the darkness. He looked around, but couldn't see anything. His heart was pounding wildly. Was it a dream? He wondered. But then he looked at the parchment in his hand. The signature was there. And at that very moment, he heard the creaking of a door. The dark figure beyond the door was approaching him. He knew now that he had to pay the price for the pact he had made with the Jinn. The whispers grew louder, mixing with screams. Serkan disappeared into the shadows, beginning to pay the price of selling his soul to the devil in the dark realm of the Jinn. No one ever returned from that door again.